Welcome back to Business Live. It's brought to you by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. President of the Ghana South Africa Business Chamber, Ashley Risk, has called on the Ghana Investment Promotion Center to review the minimum equity requirement under the GIPC Act for foreign investors who aspire to do business in the country. According to him, the current requirement is on the high side and serves as a disincentive for foreign investors. Currently, all businesses with foreign participation are required to register with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC. Under the GIPC Act 2013, Act 865, the minimum requirement for retail business is $1 million. Foreign investors who participate in a joint venture have to show $200,000, while wholly owned foreign enterprises have to show a minimum of $500,000. Speaking to Joy Business at a trade and investment seminar organized by Brand SA, President of the Ghana South Africa Business Chamber, Ashley Risk, said the current conditions pose a hindrance to many foreign investors.
We do believe that there should be a change. We're currently seen as a hindrance to foreign companies coming in, especially in the service sector. If you have a look at pre-2013, where the minimum equity was $10,000, you were seeing quite a number of smaller companies coming in and opening up, especially in the entrepreneurs field. And yes, maybe they're only going to employ 5 Ghanaians, 10 Ghanaians for employment, but there are hundreds of these companies. And currently they are unable to come and do business in Ghana. So we really hope and feel that the regulators, GIPC, need to have a look at this in earnest, investigate it, have discussions, and hopefully come up with a lower minimum equity.
Trade and investment between Ghana and South Africa have grown over the years. However, both countries are bent on improving the numbers. Dr. Judy Smith-Hone is General Manager, Global Markets at Brand SA.
There's such good relations between the two countries, and we think that this can really grow. We think that the engagements and the trade relations between the two countries, definitely there's a lot of potential for growth, and we want to explore that here today.
Okay. So what are the opportunities for both countries?
Well, I think based on what we've seen thus far, there seems to be a lot of opportunities in the space of agriculture, for example. I mean, I think that there are some amazing companies doing work here already, especially the South African ones. There's financial services sector, which has quite a good establishment here, in the hospitality sector. I think in terms of for Ghana, I think that there's definitely, the idea is to sort of also look at what kind of opportunities there are for Ghanaian businesses back in South Africa. And I think we're here now just to find information on that as well.
The summit was in partnership with the South Africa High Commission and Ghana South Africa Business Chamber. About 1,000 exhibitors from across the world are expected to attend the second Industrial and Technology Fair in Kumasi. The annual event by the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, seeks to promote Ghanaian businesses to the rest of the world. Ghanaian businesses operating in the country will have the opportunity to interact with their foreign counterparts on opportunities to create partnerships and grow their business. AGI Zonal Chairman for Ashanti and Bono Afro regions, Jimfo Owusu Chiao, spoke to Live Business at the launch in Kumasi. Prince Apia reports.
Members and officials of the Association of Ghana Industries met in Kumasi on the need to enhance their competitiveness. It was part of a meeting to launch this year's Industrial and Technology Fair to be held in Kumasi. The 10-day fair, scheduled for October 25 to November 4, is expected to create opportunity for partnerships. AGI Zonal Chairman for Ashanti and Bono Afro regions, Jimfo Owusu Chiao, spoke to Live Business at the launch in Kumasi.
It's not just about sales, it's about sales as well as matchmaking and partnership. When you go to fairs, you don't just go there to buy. In fact, someone has finished school with a first degree in maybe mechanical engineering and doesn't know what to do. But he comes there and he sees the machines that have been exhibited. It will give the person an insight to partner with somebody that, gratis will be there. So how did you go about this? Can you sign me on as on a contract, or do I come and work with you? It's not just about.
Apologies for that. We are moving on here on Business Live. The Ghana National Petroleum Corporation says rigorous seismic survey is still ongoing in the Voltaigne Basin onshore to establish a working petroleum system capable of producing significant amount of oil and gas. This was disclosed by the CEO of the National Oil Company, Dr. KK Sapong, at a signing ceremony at the University of Ghana, Legon. The JNPC signed an MOU with the University of Ghana to establish a technical partnership with the University for Petroleum Studies. Dr. Sapon said the JNPC believes the onshore Voltaigne Basin holds vast amounts of oil and gas reserves for the country.
We've just commenced exploration onshore, that is in the Voltaigne Basin, which covers about 40% of Ghana's landmass. In the early 60s, some work was done. That's why it's always good, if you have the scientists, you should also have the historians and the record keepers. We've been able to have access to the data, and we believe that something is hidden there. So we are frantically prospecting there. Currently, we are doing seismic survey. We tumble on some technology which is also coming from capacity building, geochemistry. You know, I knew of geosciences, and I didn't know you had to separate it into geochemistry, geophysics. I don't know whether there's geobiology, I don't know. And throughout the geochemistry technology, we've been able to take samples of soil and tested the existence of hydrocarbons, some gases and things, methane, butane, and whatever. At least my O-level chemistry helps me a bit. And is quite indicative that there's something there. We don't know the extent, so we are exploring further. We are presently in there doing serious seismic surveys, having finished the geochemistry analysis, which seems to suggest the existence of a working petroleum system.
Meanwhile, the GNPC says the MOU signed with the University of Ghana will help strengthen petroleum research in the university. CEO of the GNPC, Dr. KK Sapo, noted the agreement will develop the skills of students to position them effectively in the oil and gas industry.
Some of these areas that we have identified, and for us in GNPC, ours is about petroleum. So you might have heard we've done petroleum commerce in Cape Coast University, mining engineering at UMAT, petroleum engineering at KNUST, and I couldn't have forgotten about Legon, where I graduated, and that is petroleum geoscience, especially as Professor Manu happened to be my classmate, and I was always laughing at him. Why are you collecting rocks? You know, when we were here studying, I said, "How about you? You are collecting rocks. We are sitting in the business school." But now I realize that the rocks, the collection was very, very useful. But we are going to establish that, and we are feeding it $250,000 a year for the initial 4 years, meaning committing $1 million to this university over 4 years for this chair. I think the deliverables are set out in the document, but it doesn't mean that that is the end. If the university has a genuine need, I believe strongly in helping to produce more PhDs who will be at the front, will lead research, and in the sciences. And if you have any special need for updating certain skills, of course, from physics through chemistry and engineering. I realize we started engineering here. We'll be happy to offer assistance that will be on a case-by-case basis. That obviously will be outside this chair. We really want this chair to be successful. I've done it before in one university and they never utilized the money.
Some countries in the oil-producing cartel, OPEC, led by Saudi Arabia and other big producers like Russia, will meet in Vienna later this week. The two countries want to boost output to further lower prices of crude oil on the world market. Now, some experts say the decision to increased production in the second half of the year is considered certain, but with some doubts on the production levels. Locally, any decision by OPEC is expected to impact either negatively or positively. Earlier on the marketplace, research analysts at the Institute of Energy Security, IES, assessed the impact when he spoke with the host, Emmanuel Abuadriafe.
Drivers are beginning to not only think of the name of the OMC, they are beginning to look at prices on the board before they drive into an OMC to buy fuel. Okay. So to play within, you have to cope. There are some filling stations I've seen direct competition when you share a wall with Goel. When a driver passes by, you share a wall with Goel. Goel is selling at 4.78, and you are selling at 4.85. The driver will look at the prices and go where he can best afford. So it is playing very well. There's a filling station at Sapeman. They share a wall with Goel. And if you go and look at the competition playing around that environment, it's an effably beautiful tribute to deregulation. But we at IES have said that these marginal increments, 2%, 0.04%, it can serve consumers for good if the special petroleum tax component of the price build-up is eliminated totally. Okay. When it is done, we can buy for a gallon for 18 cedis in this country.
That's quite significant.
Very significant.
Now, let's look at the outlook now. And, you know, OPEC elsewhere wants to boost production to force prices down. Actually, they're meeting this week, and following the outcome of this meeting, we could either see a drop in crude oil prices. Now, we are, as a producing country of oil, how would this action impact both in the downstream and upstream sectors?
Well, for the OPEC meeting in Vienna coming on Thursday, observers are watching critically the outcomes, but irrespective of the outcomes, already Saudi Arabia and Russia have signaled their willingness to keep pumping more. And when they keep pumping more, what can make out for this one is that Venezuela and Iran under sanction is curbing production a little. Venezuela has also had problems with its production. This will complement the shortfalls or the overpumping that you will expect from Saudi Arabia or from Russia. So where Venezuela is not producing as it should, Iran, a major producer, is under sanction, you will expect that irrespective of the outcomes, even though we watch it keenly, the OPEC policy of production that will come out to dictate the production rates of the countries, largely, should Saudi Arabia or Russia decide to keep pumping more, the impact will not be as noticeable as it will be if Venezuela and Iran were still full steam on the market and producing.
While away from oil, the Bank of Ghana is taking steps to firm up the marginal stability that the Ghana cedi has recently witnessed. Now, sources say the daily support for banks has improved slightly, reaching over $300 million since May. But has this really improved the situation of banks that are demanding for dollars to support businesses? Well, there's more in this report.
From just a little dollar support, the Bank of Ghana has improved its intervention from around $10 million to about $30 million in a day to the commercial banks. However, sources say, based on the market demand, the regulator sometimes adjusts its support. Checks by Joy Business shows that there has been some marginal stability on the market compared to the early part of May this year, where we saw some significant decline in the cedi's value almost every day, which saw the rate hitting almost 5 Ghana cedis. But according to the new president of the Association of Financial Market Operators, which is made up of bank treasurers and currency dealers, the improved support has helped the situation. Here's Kofi Asare in PNM.
Ghana's fundamentals are right. We have not even hit our cocoa season, and yet, and yet our reserves are at 5 months import cover. One of the main challenges I believe people were looking at was probably maybe the MTN IPO. Right, and the fact that if they're looking for USD, maybe people would buy dollars and therefore the currency would run. We have adequate reserves, and the central bank is coming up with structures to ensure that the movement is seamless. If the central bank doesn't, our job as financial market operators is to create structures. You can invest in forwards, you can invest in swaps, you can invest in options.
According to the Bank of Ghana, the sudden pressure on the cedi has come about as a result of some foreign investors selling off their local bonds purchased in return for dollar investment, as well as the MTN IPO. But whichever way you look at it, a more sustainable way of stabilizing the cedi in the long term is required than this dollar support business, especially when the Bank of Ghana's dollar reserve, which should be around $8 billion, is limited, and managers might want to be careful not to deplete everything so that there will be enough for a rainy day when the demand really picks up.
Some commercial banks have started publishing names of their loan defaulters, perhaps as a way of reducing mounting non-performing loans, which is negatively affecting banks' books. Joy Business gives some reasons why non-performing loans continue to rise from the bank's perspective.
There have been some publications in the national dailies by banks on customers who have defaulted on loans they took from the banks, even as far as putting the pictures of directors of these companies in the national papers or the national dailies. Now, we are going to explore the main reasons or the underpinnings why customers default on loans they take from banks. And if you go through banking literature or financial literature, it's broken down into two main categories: bank-specific factors and the macroeconomic environment. What do I mean by bank-specific factors? What factors does this bank that the customer borrows from cause, or how does this bank affect the customer's repayment ability or the loans that go bad? And how does the macro environment affect this? We are all conversant with how the macro environment affects how loans go bad. We look at the city's depreciation, we look at inflation, we look at how this affects customers' ability to repay back their loans. So, for example, if you borrow from a bank and you import items and the city depreciates, you are left with very little to pay back to the bank because you're using a lot of your money to import these goods and services. That's when the city depreciates. If you look at bank-specific factors, you look at, for example, if you go and apply for a loan from a bank, the bank is supposed to scrutinize where you, the customer or the borrower, is coming from. And banks are doing this in a very lackluster manner. They're not really taking cognizance of this approach, and it's called screening. There are three main ways in which a bank looks out for borrowers: screening, monitoring, and enforcement. Screening, essentially, when you come through, they look at you and see if you are credit worthy. Monitoring is how are you repaying back these loans? Are you doing it diligently? Are you defaulting, or are you showing signs of default? And enforcement, when these loans go bad, they are supposed to pursue you. And that's why you find these things in national dailies, or you have some customers going to court because the banks are looking at different ways of getting back their monies.
Philip, now for you there with that perspective for you. Now, low capacity of local contractors remains a major barrier to maximizing the benefits of public-private partnership and local content opportunities. President of the Ghana Institute of Construction, Professor Joshua Yakwa, says delayed payment without interest for past work done is likely to blame. He spoke at the Maiden National Construction Fair and Summit in Kumasi.
Common fund.
Professor Ayakwa acknowledges the potential of the Ghana Education Trust Fund and other state funding schemes to improve the lot of local contractors. He, however, concludes little has been achieved so far in that direction.
Delays in payments for works is still the norm in this country, and enforcing payments for interest on delays in project payments a reality. The capacity of local contractors remain a major barrier to their taking advantage of the many PPP arrangements and other local content opportunities. The cost of construction still remains very high because of lack of good quality local building materials and lack of availability of information on materials available. Access to capital still remains a challenge, and the general lack of proper regulation of the industry are known to all of us.
The 5-day fair, under the theme 60 Years of Construction, Uniting for Industrialization, is in collaboration with Ministries of Works and Housing, as well as Roads and Highways. It brings together stakeholders in the sector, including academia and researchers, who have the opportunity to showcase their methods and products in an effort towards transforming the industry.
It will also provide us with the opportunity to access our present strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, so that together we can play our rightful part in Ghana's drive towards industrialization. There will be seminars on pertinent issues such as construction project financing and the role of financial institutions, enforcing interest on delayed payments, promoting use of local materials and traditional construction,
putting in place the vital infrastructure that supports.
Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Reverend Professor Charles Ansa, urged industry players to find a solution to Ghana's housing deficit.
Premier Science and Technology Institution in Ghana, KNUST, will support the National Construction Fair and Summit. I personally look forward to recommendations from the summit and the strategies towards their implementation. One of the things that I'm looking for in the recommendation is how you can reduce the cost of building in Ghana, and I'm sure I'll see that in the recommendation. I wish you happy and fruitful interactions and deliberations, and I now formally have the privilege of
reporting for JoyNews.
Minister for Railways Development Joe Gatti has touted the competence of South African company Transnet International Holdings to help develop the country's railway sector. The Ghana Railway Company Limited has already signed an MOU with Transnet to commence development work soon. Now, in an interview with JoyNews after an engagement with officials of Transnet at Takoradi, the sector minister said the decision to involve the South African company was taken together with the Ghana Railway Company Limited based on the company's past performance.
The future of the Ghana Railway Company Limited under the Ministry of Railway Development is set to witness a positive transformation. A South African company, Transnet International Holdings, is to invest in the country's railway sector. President Akufo-Addo has vowed to add 947 kilometers to the existing railway lines. Here's Minister for Railway Development, Joe Gatti.
It is important that we make sure that the systems and procedures and the work ethics of the Ghana Railway Company Limited are sharpened to enable them to meet the expectations of the new railway sector. We are looking for a partner, and we think that Transnet is a good partner. We recommended Transnet to the Ghana Railway Company Limited. They went, had a meeting with them in South Africa, and they invited me to join the meeting. If Ghana Railway Company had come to the conclusion that it was not a good partnership, I can't force it down their throat. Now, Transnet, you can talk to them, and I'm sure you talk to them. They control 30,000 kilometers of rail. We have 60, and Kumasi is only 300. And so they are coming to look at all aspects of our operations. We are opening up our books to them. We see how we can cooperate. As they said, they brought in all kinds of experts. They brought in experts in the area of rolling stock, experts in the area of track, finance. They are lawyers. They are prepared to bring in financial injection and form a partnership with us, which will take us from step to step. So I think it's a wonderful thing that has happened today.
Officials of Transnet International Holdings, managers of over 30,000 kilometer railway line and tracks in South Africa, have visited Ghana. This was after a delegation led by Ghana's Minister of Railway Development to sign a memorandum of understanding with a South African company to come on board and help develop the sector. Leader of the team from South Africa, Wilson Moba, also shared some thoughts.
So the partnership with Transnet is one that is geared towards revitalizing Ghana's railways, particularly the narrow gauge lines, as the Minister has requested us to do. So in particular, what we want to bring on board is our extensive skills and experience in operating railways. As you know, South Africa runs a network of over 30,000 kilometers of narrow gauge railway lines. We move on average possibly about over 200 million tons of cargo through our rail system. So we believe that those experiences can be brought to Ghana to help in the revitalization program.
Well, it's time to bring you our interview of the day. An auditing firm, KPMG, which is currently managing Unibank, has confirmed to Joy Business it has received proposals from some private investors expressing interest to take over operations of the bank. This follows the decision by the Bank of Ghana to put Unibank under receivership with KPMG. The company is expected to present the State of the Bank report to the Bank of Ghana in 6 months, after which a final decision will be taken by the regulator. In an exclusive interview with Joy Business, senior partner at KPMG, Anthony Sapon, said the proposals have been received but deferred until further notice.
You need somebody who has that financial muscle, that if they're assuming the existing shareholders will not be able to make up what the capital is, you definitely need a partner who has the financial muscle to bring in the needed capital. But running a bank is not just the capital. You also need technical expertise. You need people who can bring in the right culture. Because as long as we are human beings, culture, institutional culture is very, very critical. So if the bank had gone through difficulty, you don't want the situation after all this work. This, like they say, history repeats itself, but this is a situation you don't want history to repeat itself. So you'll be looking out for a partner that can have one or two, a combination of this. It is possible to have a partner from local who can partner and bring this on board, or can bring part of it on board. And I think we will not shy away from that. It's also possible to have a partner with a foreign partner that can bring all of this on board. But you could also even have a combination, because the truth is that when power is diverse and is spread across, then you avoid dominance. It's also easier to create a culture which is more or less suitable to all. And I think that helps in a situation of this nature.
At least we say coming events.
Right.
And that's our program tonight. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. There you see it in your shorts. We've got all the latest stories for you. Just go there and get updated. My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. We're back same time tomorrow.